It feels good to be here on a Monday morning. Welcome to Breakfast Central on News Central with me, Joe Hansen. Yes, I bet it's quite different from what you're expecting, possibly to see myself and the rest of the crew. But don't worry, don't fret. The reason is not far-fetched. It's just around the corner. And when I mean around the corner, I mean it's at the far-flung distance of Nigeria, particularly the Federal Capital Territory, where the duo, of course, you know, troublesome they could be, but they'll be joining me all the way from there. Or better still, I will be joining them. Wait, we'll be joining each other regardless. My name is Joe Hansen. Welcome to Breakfast Central. I do have Olive and Binga live at the Nigerian Economic Summit venue. Yes, and there they are right there on your screens. Good morning to you, Olive. Good morning, Binga. It's good to see you guys away from Lagos, leaving me alone here, but I love it and I like it. How you guys living?
We miss you, Joe, and we know that it's really difficult for you to cope without us. We just want to encourage you to take heart, not to worry. We'll carry you along virtually. We're live here in the Federal Capital Territory at the Nigerian Economic Summit Group, where the conversation will be focused on the reform imperative, building a sustainable Nigeria by 2030. And when we're talking about building a sustainable Nigeria, at one that just doesn't focus on economic stability but also looks at inclusion. And for the next 2 days, that's Monday up until Wednesday, there'll be panel sessions every single day, breakout sessions where some of these key conversations will be happening. And here, because we are proud of what we're doing here, we recognize how important the conversations that will be had here are. We'll be carrying you along through the NESG Summit. So thank you, and once again, welcome to Nigerian Economic Summit Group, Breakfast Central, broadcasting live from the Federal Capital Territory. I am Olive Emodi.
And I'm Binga Boa. Absolutely great things to look ahead to here at the Nigerian Economic Summit Group. Like Olive just said, it's going to be 3 days of intense celebrations and discussions, and we look forward to bringing you those conversations and talking to those who matter, the powerhouses when it comes to finance and economics in Nigeria. So sit back, relax, and we've got you covered here from the Federal Capital Territory, Abuja. Joe, if you can see, we're seated like we're in the seat of power. Yes, life here is very different and beautiful. Yeah, I might just move to Abuja. Olive, are you considering that?
Well, seeing how Abuja is just this place where, as much as we love Lagos, shout out to Lagos, you can't deny that there's a certain peace that comes with being in Abuja. There's just the fact that the roads are free. They did not want us when in Lagos to leave our hotel at the time that we left.
I feel like I'm in a different country. So
I know.
I think Lagos should, learn one or two things from Abuja.
Well, we're at the seat of power. We'll be bringing you some of the biggest conversations, but let's now get into our wake-up conversations. This morning, we're starting off with the leader of the Conservative Party, Kemi Badenoch, who has taken what some would refer to as the hardest stance in British politics regarding immigration. She plans to remove 150,000 illegal immigrants every year from the UK. And some have said that this is a force that's sort of modeled after America's ICE. Will this work? How are people going to take it? We have a video where she talked about this. We'll play the video and we'll come back. We'll take a look at our own stance as well as share social media reactions.
I'm launching our radical borders plan, the toughest reforms Britain has ever seen to border laws and operations. Successive governments have failed on immigration. Labour promised to smash the gangs. Instead, in just a year, they delivered record small boat crossings, over 50,000 illegal arrivals, 32,000 people in asylum hotels, billions wasted. It's pure weakness. Britain needs a serious, credible plan and the backbone to deliver it. That's the Conservatives. That's our borders plan. My message is clear. If you come here illegally, you will be deported. We'll shut down the asylum hotel racket, save billions, and take back control of Britain's borders.
Where would you propose that 150,000 people would go? Because the original Rwanda plan was going to take perhaps 1,000 people over 5 years.
Laura,
so where would those people all go?
Not here. Not here. They do not belong here. They are committing crimes. They are hurting people. We have been trying to deport so many people and have been facing obstacles in the legal system. That's why we're leaving the ECHR. We tried to deport a Jamaican national who had committed crimes. Shabana Mahmood and Keir Starmer wrote a letter asking us not to deport him. He went on to kill someone else later. I'm tired of us asking all of these irrelevant questions about where should they go. They will go back to where they should do or another country, but they should not be here. We need to look after the people in our country.
And Kemi Badenoch there, Olive and Benga. But one would ordinarily wonder why she is so strong and focused on ensuring that she actually gets these, what she calls illegal migrants off. And she says they're committing so much crime. 150,000, she says. And she makes it clear, poignant, straight to you who's watching, that if you come illegally, you will be chased or, taken out of the UK. But isn't Kemi doing too much? Oliver and Benga, I think I'm going to let you guys dive into this one as well.
This is not the first time we've seen Kemi speak about her stance regarding immigration and the fact that she wants to deport a number of people out of the out of Britain. She's been very strong about that. But the current reality of what the UK has, and in terms of how the UK deports people, to match up with her very aspirational 150,000, there's a lot of implications. First of all, she wants the UK to leave the European Convention on Human Rights. And what will that mean? Will that be able to, how will that impact the Britain's stance internationally and diplomatic relations with other countries? Because if they leave the ECHR, that's not the only thing. They're signed to other treaties that protect the rights of these immigrants, right? That's on the one hand. The UK currently doesn't deport more than, I think, 25 to 30,000 people a year. Rounding that up to 150,000 a year sounds very idealistic. There are several things that will need to be considered. There will be bigger detention centers that will need to be built, the financial implication of what this will cost. Can the UK afford that? And then we'll talk about the Nigerian angle as well, the Nigerian perspective to this. So those who are planning to relocate to the United Kingdom, we see a number of applicants every year, and what this might mean for them. Whilst we're not in any way saying it's advisable for you to go there as an illegal migrant, even the illegal migrants still have some rights. There are those who have rights as asylum seekers, and what Kemi is trying to do is deprive them of these rights. But let's hear what Benga thinks as well.
I mean, absolutely, Olive, you're right, and most people will be wondering that, look, this is the United Kingdom we're talking about here. It's supposed to be a beacon of human rights and democracy, and for her to be seeking the United Kingdom's removal from the European Council of Human Rights is just a convention on human rights, is something you would not even think about in your wildest dreams. And I'm saying this because the European Convention for Human Rights does provide some sort of legal cover, even when the courts in the United Kingdom face. If you recall the Rwanda deal, where there was a deal with Rwanda where the United Kingdom was going to deport illegal migrants 8,000 miles away from the shores of the United Kingdom. I mean, the Conservative government then got away with it, Rishi Sunak. But when it got to the European Convention for Human Rights, they had to say, look, you can't do this, extreme measures. And the deal collapsed subsequently. But the Conservatives, immigration is what they're big on. It's one of their big campaign principles. So the more extreme it is, the more it would appeal to their base. And looking at ICE is not, we're in 2025. ICE has just been randomly, the other day, they deported South Korean guest workers. It's almost like a militia. They're hooded, they cover their faces and just pick random people off the street. So the world should be looking at a more inclusive world. I'm not saying you don't have a right to mind your borders or screen who you want in or out of your country, but let's do away from extreme measures. And that's why we always say we need strong institutions. And when you remove these institutions, it means governments can just get away with anything. And it's also ironic that it's coming from someone that is a beneficiary of the immigration system. Yeah.
I mean, removing themselves from ECHR. There's still the UN Refugee Convention. There's a convention against torture. So the United Kingdom still has some international obligations beyond ECHR. But that's even just on the one hand. There's several other angles to consider. Many people believe that she's doing this, of course, because she's trying to increase her popularity, within the party system. She's trying to increase her popularity within the UK. But if she's also modeling this after America's eyes. She says America has never been part of the ECHR. America is not in Europe. It's not, I don't think that's apples and oranges.
It's not an example you should even aspire to compare with.
Correct.
Yeah.
But again, this reminds us at home that we have a lot of work to do in terms of protecting ourselves and ensuring that our country is one that people are happy to remain in and not looking forward to jackpot. It's one thing for Kemi to say that they plan to deport 150,000 people every year, and they're well within their rights to protect their borders and protect their citizens. But deport them to where? And whenever they ask her that question, she flares up and says she's tired of people asking her that question. But the truth is, you also need to talk about those who are leaving.
She said to where they came from.
To where they came from. So there's also, I don't want to refoulement that doesn't allow you to deport citizens or people back to a country where they could face potential harm. So will the country be willing to receive them? It's another conversation.
That's why they haven't, like the United States, for example, will deport you to a third country. A bunch of deportees just arrived from the United States in Ghana. Togo has also accepted, and Mr. Trump is a very transactional president. He does all those quid pro quo deals. Right. So the African countries have been sort of strong-armed to deal with that problem, America's problem. But it's quite unfortunate that they are accepting this sort of thing.
Well, it doesn't, again, it's one thing for her to say it, the application of it is another thing. Many legal experts believe that it will put the UK in diplomatic tensions with other countries, and at best, it seems very aspirational.
And most importantly, they need to win the elections. They are not in government, so this is just a proposal.
Right. Let's start with Joe as he tells us what Nigerians are saying about Kemi Badenoch and her new, very strong aspirations, not surprising, but strong aspirations to deport 150,000 foreigners, illegal, I must mention, illegal migrants every year.
That's right, Oliver and Benga. I mean, you guys have said it all. You've dissected every single thing just the right way it should be. But then again, let's see what Nigerians are saying on X, how they're reacting to Kemi Badenoch's statement. Deterring illegal migration is a legitimate policy goal, but mass detention and deportation at the scale you propose raises urgent, practical, legal and moral questions. How would the government ensure due process, avoid family separations and fund the huge operational costs? Will this tackle the root causes that drive people to migrate or simply create a costly churn of people and courts? If we're serious about control, let's pair enforcement with smarter legal routes, faster asylum decisions and international cooperation, not just headlines. That's a good one from Nelson Collins, asking the right questions. Valentine is also here. He says, sometimes I wonder whether immigration is truly the major issue facing Britain. Yet, because it's what the majority of people want to hear, the conversation continues to center around immigration, while more pressing challenges such as a housing crisis, underfunded healthcare, stagnant wages, regional inequality, and the erosion of public services are sidelined. Another angle again to look at it, depending on where you're looking at it from, that's Valentine looking at it from a different angle. Let's take a final one very quickly before we move to our next story. How did she get to the UK? Her lineage, or lineage, whichever way you choose to pronounce it, he reach another person turn now she illegal. One pour sand for the food. No one day person go tell her. But that's what you have. That's what we're going to take on that story. I mean, I like that. I like that last statement to say one day. Hopefully, one day someone will tell her. But let's move on to our next wake-up conversation, guys. The next wake-up conversation has got to do with the growing concern of insecurity. Now, just yesterday, 2023 presidential aspirant, or you could say, the one whom they call, in quotes, Mr. Perfect, maybe, Mr. Peter Obi, took to social media, particularly X, to highlight the worries that's bedeviling the country, and that's got to do with insecurity. If you recall, just last week we had talked about Kirawa and other border communities within Nigeria, you could say, between Nigeria's insecure spaces or states, and Borno State happens to be one of them, border between Nigeria and Cameroon. And not just that, just yesterday there were confirmation, I beg your pardon, about another attack, so to say, in quotes, in the Federal Capital Territory, not forgetting other areas as well, which has got to do with insecurity. Well, Mr. Peter Gregory decided to take it to X. Let's see if we can put his tweet up. And he had a conversation like this. He said, troubling security situation in Kogi and Kwara states as well. Yes, Kwara was a major one and still remains one. And he goes ahead to say, I am deeply disturbed by the tragic reports of yet another senseless attack in Kogi State's Yagba West local government area, where over 27 innocent Nigerians were killed by armed bandits. Just to add to that statement, this happened over the weekend, not far off, just over the weekend. And he went on to say, the images are heartbreaking. My thoughts and prayers are with the victims, their families, and the entire people of Kogi State. Here at News Central, we cannot show you these images because they are completely gory. And he goes on to say, this comes as reports from neighboring Kwara State say that 9 out of 16 local governments in Kwara State are under bandit siege, who now demand food and drinks as ransom. The 9 LGs in the bandit control include Baruten, Edu, Ekiti, Ifelodun, Isi, Kiama, Okero, Patigi, and Irepodun. The security situation is now a national emergency. It is deeply troubling that insecurity has become a normal occurrence in our nation, where our citizens die daily more than in countries at war. That this is not normal. Well, at the end of the day, he goes on to say, just running through the paragraphs, may God grant eternal rest to the victims, comfort to the aggrieved families, and give wisdom and courage to our leaders to protect every Nigerian life. Olive Winger, we've talked about insecurity like never before, especially last week, where I do recall asking that the president needs to actually step up the game and possibly look into calling for a state of emergency for insecurity here in Nigeria. But that's the latest. And there's also a dig-up of the current president's tweet that he had made during the time of President Goodluck Ebele Jonathan's era, I would say, administration. And that tweet, he had accused the president then of not handling insecurity appropriately. They have the tweet there as far back as 2014, the 29th day in January. The current president now, who was actually in opposition, said the slaughtering of Christian worshippers is strongly condemnable. It calls to question the competence of Jonathan to protect Nigerians. I don't know what your say is, guys, but let me push it back to you guys for your reactions before we go straight to X.
The logical thing is to reverse roles and say, you know, the slaughtering and the wanton killings of Nigerians in different parts of the country shows a lack of competence on the part of the administration, because this is even taking a different dimension. In the past, we've not seen Kwara State, we hardly had any attacks of terrorism in Kwara State, but we're seeing pockets of violent extremist groups operations in the southern part of Nigeria, in the east, and it calls again and again. We can never stop saying that the government needs to step up and do something about the state of insecurity, because it's their basic responsibility. That's the least that is expected.
There's nothing else to add to what has been said. Watching the lives of Nigerians being snuffed out of them, because the basic, which is providing security to every Nigerian, it's the responsibility of the government to guarantee the safety and security of its citizens. And any government that hasn't done that, has its work cut out for it. If the government is able to win the war against insecurity, then they won't need to campaign too much. I always say this, as there are certain markers that the government just needs to check. And when these markers are checked, we'll be able to say for sure that the government has done its duty, and citizens will not, you won't need to beg people to vote for you. Let's not politicize the conversation about insecurity. We have an insecurity problem in our hands. And if we can fix that, there's so much that it will do. It would increase the FDIs we're so desperately talking about. People will be willing to come in and invest. In Nigeria, you won't need to beg them.
Economy.
It would help the economy, it would help tourism because people will travel in. There's so much beauty in Nigeria that is yet to be explored, because there are people who are afraid of coming to Nigeria because they don't want their life
reasons,
to
and there's so much you could do, or PR, and try to wish the problem away or put makeup. But look, and then for the critics, of people that speak up or mention this incident, we're not happy to talk about people dying. It does something to your psyche, but we owe them a sense of duty so that their memories are not erased. And these are fellow Nigerians like us. So when somebody speaks up about the state of insecurity in Nigeria, it's not doing it from an unpatriotic point of view. Is doing it because he cares and he wants the government to do something about it. You, on the other hand, as government, need to create a situation where you don't even give room for this insecurity to exist. It's a win-win situation for everybody if there's peace in the country, and I don't think it's in anyone's interest to be happy to report bad news every other day.
Interest. And again, this time, but I'm sure that Nigerians have been speaking about this. So let's next to you, Joe. Take us through what Nigerians are saying about this.
That's right, guys. Well, there's also a picture that circulated online that showed the governor of Kwara State, Governor Abdulrahman Abdulrazak. While these insecurity calls indeed was going on in the state, he was somewhere with Mr. President in Imo State during the commissioning. And that got the people of Kwara very angry and unhappy that your state is struggling, but you buy out time to go and celebrate with Mr. President in a few commissioning in Imo State. But then again, let's hope that Kwara can actually get this settled. But let's see what Nigerians are saying on X concerning the raising, or you could say the rising alarm of insecurity in Nigeria. Marvelous Israel says, when the nation normalizes bloodshed, it has lost its moral compass. What's happening in Kogi and Kwara is beyond tragic. He goes on to say that it's actually, anyway, let's see if we could go back to that tweet. Hopefully I can switch back. Yeah, it's a reflection of leadership failure and a broken security architecture. Nigerians deserve safety, not condolence messages every week. And we agree with you, Marvelous Israel, very spot on. Let's go to the next one very quickly and see what who's saying what. Joe Jevs says, this was Tinubu's statement. But today, he's the commander-in-chief of the armed forces. But Nigeria is now a terrible nightmare place to live in. The killings are much. Trauma is the best friend of most youths and citizens. In conclusion, a new Nigeria is possible. All right, that's possible. You know that slang usually comes from the obedient. Anyway, Ibanda says, Nigeria has turned into a country where dying is normal news and living is normal news and living is the miracle. How did we get here? It's heartbreaking that being Nigeria now feels like surviving a war zone without an actual war. We no longer count progress, we count bodies. This, that's a very tough statement to make. We no longer count progress, we count bodies. That should hit deep. Another one, Orthodox man finally says, let everyone own a gun to protect themselves if the government is unable to do so. And let's see whether we will have, let me see if I can bring that back. Orthodox man, and let's see whether we will have a peaceful country. The boy who's never appreciated by his village burns it down to enjoy its warmth. Ooh, a lot of poetic statements made this morning from very, very aggrieved Nigerians there. But there you have it. That's all we're going to take on Wake Up Conversation today. One of the big conversations that could have made it here as well is the fact that Minister Uche Nnaji, a minister who was talented not to have had a certificate as a graduate, has finally come out to agree that yes, he doesn't have it. But this story and many more is what we're going to take later on in the course of our conversations. Maybe today, maybe tomorrow. But the guys are right there in Abuja for the Nigerian Economic Summit. It's the 31st edition, and trust me, it promises to be very, very insightful. We also have our guests who will be joining us here live in Lagos and also live in Abuja. But let's bring to you what the top stories are this morning here on Breakfast Central. Meet Rivers elders. This has indeed elicited a lot of conversations. Nigeria Bar Association President calls for a complete reform, says the judiciary is in shambles. And for President's bid come 2027 continues to spark conversations. Where is he going to, the ADC or back to the PDP, or you could say maybe moving to another party? Transparency at local governments is another conversation we'll look at. And don't forget, we have the newspaper front pages plus the Nigerian Economic Summit live. Stay with us for all details in a moment.
Welcome back. In case you're just tuning in, we're broadcasting live from the Federal Capital Territory where the Nigerian Economic Summit is happening, the 30th edition. But now let's switch to politics. Over the course of the weekend, on Saturday to be precise, the Minister of the FCT, Wike, and the Governor of Rivers State, Governor Fubara, had a meeting with the Rivers State Elders Council. Now, this meeting comes amidst a lot of drama and action that's happened in the state recently, the sacking of the commissioners, the reinstatement of the governor of Rivers State, and many people are wondering if this really signals Uhuru in Rivers State and that focus can now be placed on governance as opposed to the political drama that's happened in the past year. Joining us to explore the meaning of this meeting, what the potential implications of it are, and what the future of politics and governance in Rivers State is, we have the founder of TAF Foundation, Jake Etele, live with us here in the studio. Good morning, and it's great to have a live conversation. We always have a better conversation with you.
Good morning, Olive. You know, it looks like we have an olive branch in Rivers State.
I know! That's a very good one. So would you consider the meeting between the Rivers State Elders Council, Wike, Governor Fubara, the Speaker of the House, and all these other people whose photos were shared, the Lady Alliance shared them on X, would you consider this some sort of waving of the olive branch?
Well, you know, the optics looks good, but I hope their hearts are united. I pray that they mean what they say, and they are conveying what they mean or what they meant. However, we want to see real peace play out. We want to see governance at its best. We want to see unity between the legislative arm and the executive branch. I think that's where we keep having problems. We want to see true patriotism, statesmen, you know, people that can truly carry the progress of the state, and so that we can begin to see the dividend of democracy. Like I always say, it's not about these people. It's not about these personalities. It's about the people of Rivers State. We've gone too much. We've suffered so much. We've taken a lot. I think it's time for us to come together, speak one voice, and get things going so that the common man can breathe.
Dr. Pele, you did talk about the optics. They look good, but is it really a piece of the heart? And that leads me to my next question. The governor, Fubara, just sacked all his commissioners and appointees, and people have been questioning since his return to Government House in Port Harcourt that is this really the man that was sworn in 2 years ago? Is there a different person now, having been suspended? So what do you make of the sacking of the commissioners? Is this something that is necessary? And the new commissioners that he will appoint, is it really coming from him, or their hands that we can't see?
Well,
behind the scenes.
I think you described it right. There may be hands that we can't see. The voice we hear is the voice of Jacob, right? The hand looks like the hand of Esau. The problem is this, and now I'm going to speak because I come from the same place with Fubara, so I can say he's my kinsman and my brother, although younger. Okay, but he's still my excellencies. However, the point is, the people that have been sacked, you know, I feel for them, because these are people that supported him. These are people that were there for him. The reason that they were sacked is can only be said by Fubara. However, we have to understand one principle when it comes to appointment. The servant, the one who serves at the pleasure of the executive. So the governor has the power to hire and fire. Okay. However, how these ones are playing out, there is a political undertone. There's no doubt. There's a possibility that somebody somewhere is sitting and saying, look, I need these guys out.
But does this speak to a lack of transparency in government communication? Because as indigenes of river states, as citizens, you deserve to know the reasoning behind every government action. And yes, people deserve some sort of accountability. So why isn't this public knowledge?
Absolutely. I think it's in the place of the governor I think he did in his address say that they've served well and probably he wants other people to come and serve. But there is a political undertone that you and I cannot analyze and describe. However, the guiding principle is that whoever is appointed serves at the pleasure of the president or the governor. So he has what it takes to hire and fire. So he's done that, but he owes us explanation. And I think in his, maybe in a small way, he has explained why he decided to let them go.
So we should dig in a little bit into that, why he decided to let them go. In February this year, we did get a Supreme Court judgment that affirmed the Martin Amewule-led government, led House, and of course invalidated the Victor Okojombo-led one. Part of the explanation might be, or has been, some of the explanation we've seen, the fact that these cabinet members were, of course, approved by the Victor Okojombo-led House. And if the Supreme Court then says that that's not a valid House, that would automatically mean that any decision made as a result of that. So it's basically you putting something or nothing and expecting it to stand. Do you think that that argument will hold water, saying Victor Okojombo was invalidated as a speaker, so anyone he approves automatically is invalidated by that move?
Well, I think seems to be the only governor in this country that obeys court judgment. There are people that don't care, no matter what you say. But yes, you have a point. That could be. But also that leaves us to a very important conversation. And that conversation is what happens to Victor Okojombo and the rest of the two and the other three. I think they shouldn't be touched. I don't think they should leave the Legislative Assembly. They served their time, they served their purpose, and they shouldn't be witch hunt.
So what will then happen? We can't have Victor Okojombo, Martin Amewule.
No. Well, if you go by the judgment, we only have one speaker now, and that is Martin Amewule.
So we should move on. No Victor, no vanquish.
No Victor, no vanquish. But
then what will happen to these other people that you've asked? I don't think is there going to be space for them.
The governors, the
commissioners, and then the former speaker.
Come on, only politicians know how to compensate themselves. You don't know what has happened behind the scene. There's a possibility that they have been given one quiet offer.
Do you think
and they can transit? They can transit and become businessmen and still be politicians.
Do you think any of them might return? At least the star commissioners.
Return as commissioners.
As commissioners, maybe a different portfolio.
I think they're gone, probably. Okay. There's also a possibility that, and you're right, that's a smart question. They're likely to be refilled, some of them, if possible, if they're in the good book of those who are now dictating how the destination of the train.
Okay.
So,
okay. I wanted us to go back to the meeting that happened over the course of the weekend. There was a picture that Larry Olayinka, I don't know if we have the picture, if we do, can we please share it? The picture that Larry Olayinka had shared on his X account, detailing the meeting. And if you look at that picture, part of the criticism leveled against this picture is the fact that Professor Ngozi Odu, the deputy governor, was not there. Right Honorable Ehie Ogerenyi Edison, chief of staff to Governor Fubara, was not there. Some people mentioned that Peter Odili was not there, and they wondered, they said, Yes, and they wondered, they said it looked in some measure that this was leaning to one side, tilting to one side, and that what is happening is that the whole idea is to maybe alienate all those who supported Governor Sim Fubara. Is that a likelihood?
I mean, it's not an impossible scenario. However, as a communication expert, I didn't just look at the picture. I looked at the non-verbal communication, what he's saying. I saw the way Fubara was sitting. You know how it is when you sit with people you love and people you trust, you're free. I could see, someone who is trying to manage his space, and many of them. And that's the nature of politicians. And I would say crooked politicians. That's their nature. They tell you one thing, they mean another. Their hearts is not in sync with their lips. That's the politicians we have. It's not supposed to be so. People should be trusted. People should be trusted and leave the reason why they are trusted. But politics and the people, it's like husband and wife. There must be that trust and transparency where you can strip naked and not be ashamed. So that's just what is playing out. I pray that the optics that seem good would convey the thoughts of those in the picture. Because similarly, Wike, both of you need to understand that the people of River State have gone through too much. And this is the time for true governance to emerge and the dividend of democracy so that the people can benefit from who they elected to lead them.
Let's track back a little bit and look at the stewardship of the sole administrator. But I would take this question after the break.
Yeah. Break, and when we come back, Binga will take his question.
You're welcome back to Breakfast Central, reaching you live from the Nigerian Economic Summit Group, the 31st edition, live in the nation's capital, Abuja. We're currently in a discussion with Dr. Jake Epele, founder, CEO of TAF Foundation. We're unpacking the River State Elders meeting that happened, peace deal, a meeting that happened with Governor Sim Nnaji Fubara over the course of the weekend. Now, Dr. Epele, there's been lots of talks about probing the sole administrator. The first port of call for the River State House of Assembly when they resumed was to ask him to account for the monies that were spent during his stewardship. He was also in Abuja last week to see Mr. President, and civil society groups have been calling. They want him to account for taxpayers' money that was spent in the 6 months he held the arms as the sole administrator of River State. How important as an indigene of River State are these calls, or is it a distraction?
Oh no, come on. This is basic requirement of leadership, transparency and accountability. If he's truly, and as a trained military officer that he is, he doesn't have to wait. I expected him to have audited himself.
Some will argue that the National Assembly did perform oversight functions while he was sole administrator, so that should count for something.
Oversight function does not necessarily mean integral
proper audit.
Yes. Accountability. If he had accounted, giving whatever he did to the National Assembly, he should tell us so that, and of course it should also be made public. The point is, leadership requires that even when you don't, the public is not asking you to audit yourself. You audit yourself. The best way to escape public scrutiny is self-audit. Audit yourself. Tell us how much you spent, how you spent it, all the things that he did with taxpayers' money that belongs to Rivers people. he should be honorable enough to account for what he spent. We're asking you to account for what you spent. There's no hard and fast rules about it. He should be accountable. And as a responsible citizen and a well-trained military personnel, he should know that accountability is one of the hallmarks of leadership. So he shouldn't wait for people. I think Abbas should be angry enough to audit himself and say, this is how much I got, this is how much I spent, and anybody can hold me to it. But the aspect of keeping quiet and and all that, it does not help.
It also helps
for leadership growth.
Yeah.
Yes. It doesn't help for leadership growth. So I was one of the first people that called for him to account all the monies that were given to him that he spent and how he spent it. Throughout his period, there was no meaningful progress, no meaningful project. So he should be held accountable, and he should account how he spent not only the taxpayers' money, but all the money they borrowed from the bank, all the money that was released from the allocation fund. He should be accountable.
But in fairness to the sole administrator, his mandate was to keep the peace, not to build infrastructure.
Don't even go there. He was totally, absolutely illegal. Yeah. Okay. He had no mandate. Mandate from where? Mandate from the president. The president was elected just like Fubara was elected.
So what role does the president have to play now in ensuring that...
He was the one who appointed him. He should tell him to account for what he was given. It's not rocket science. I run an organization. I'm accountable to my board. I'm accountable to people. Go to my website. You will see the annual report and account. So that's what transparent leaders do. If you don't have any skeleton in your cupboard, you don't need anybody to push you to be accountable. It's global, it's local and global best practices.
So now that let's now come back to Rivers State and where Rivers State currently is with regards governance and the policies that have been implemented for the advancement of the citizens. How much progress has been made ever since the feud between the minister and the governor?
Well, very little, except the fact that Fubara was a bit more focused. I've never seen how an individual can survive that level of crisis and yet made meaningful progress. I think he did. He was able to focus on projects, tangible projects that people can see. And of course, he was also able to manage himself, because I don't know, I probably will not be able to carry on the way he carried on, but he had the energy and the age on his side, so he was able to do that. The people were, as a matter of fact, Olive, is the people that suffered the most. We lost a lot. We lost a lot of time. We lost a lot of progress. We lost a lot of security situation. It was too much to handle. But thank God we're where we are right now. Sometimes the best emerges from the worst. But worst that doesn't. They say whatever that can't kill you will make you stronger. Yeah, but that's what it is.
And the projections for where Rivers State is going to from here, now that there seems to be peace between the warring factions.
Well, I'm not a pessimist, but I'm a bit concerned because politicians being who they are, I hope that there will not be pound of flesh kind of demands. And if that happens, we're likely to go back to the same scenario. But I pray that will never happen. I believe that this is a lesson for the FCT minister, for Fubara, for the legislative arm, that, hey, you can't twist the situation for too long. You can't hold the people for too long. One day there'll be resistance. And I think this is the time for them to allow peace to truly reign.
Now, Dr. Epele, as we wind down on this conversation, as we wrap up, I need to prepare your mind for this question. I know you don't have a crystal ball in front of you. And number two, you are not in Governor Siminalayi Fubara's head. So this is my question. Next year is a penultimate year to a general election. We know how politics work in Nigeria. And when we came into the Federal Capital Territory, the amount of billboards and political activity that we saw, you would almost think elections are next week. And Governor Fubara has lost 6 months. What can he do between now and next year? Because politicians will get into full election mode. Should he just be a one-term governor? He came and served and he left, or try to, because that's another layer of distraction and politicking, and ordinary Rivers people might suffer as a result. So what's your advice as a kinsman and, a communications expert? What do you see happening in the next year?
Well, let me practice a bit of telepathy, getting into the hearts of mind of Fubara. Fubara is not that ambitious. He's not. Hopefully, he will, maintain the course and seek for a second term. The powers that be might decide that they don't want him back, but I think they're beginning to see the light at the end of the tunnel, because Fubara has a great deal of supporters. I am amazed by the kind of people that came out, how market women left their stuff and
should be the powers that be. Should be the people of River State.
Well, politicians can be parochial. They don't know that, they think that they are the power block. They don't know that people are the power block. And so we're going to find out a scenario where there will be a call for Fubara to stay put, and the way the pendulum is swinging, who knows, he may openly decamp to APC. And if that happens, that's the end of the game.
We really don't know how things will turn out, and we won't be surprised if that happens. I saw his Independence Day speech where he congratulated the president and then the people and everybody. Under the comment section, you could see people saying, hey, he's congratulating the president, of course, because he's sort of been boxed in a corner.
But only this is the first time I'm seeing another political party candidate or somebody who is in praising an opposition. It
can't be the first time. I think Minister Uche
it's not the first time. It's not the first time, but it amazes me.
Right.
How normalizing exactly. And it's not good for our politics, because whenever opposition. If there's no opposition, then it's a one-way ticket on the way to a one-party state, and we don't want a one-party state.
Well, we have to now connect with Lagos studio, Dr. Jake Pele. Thank you for joining us this morning. We wish you and the people of River State all the best. We really want this to be peace for real, not just optics.
And
because at the end of the day, it's
I
for
hope
the
the
benefit of
National
the people.
Economic Summit will be as inclusive as I expect.
Yes.
We didn't have time to talk about that, but I can come back and we'll talk about inclusive business.
We'll look forward to having that.
Right.
Let's now connect with our Lagos studio. Johansson is on standby. There are more conversations happening here at the Nigerian Economic Summit, and we are on standby to bring you the updates. But over to you, Johansson.
Absolutely. Great conversation there with Dr. Jake Epele. Very interesting conversation about River State and the meeting with the Federal Capital Territory Minister, talking about the former governor himself of River State, Wike. But away from that, let's talk about the sub-nationals for a minute. Nigeria's local government administration has once again come under the spotlight as pro-transparency advocates have raised concerns over the poor level of transparency and accountability. Now, this was in Abuja, by the way, the nation's capital, where you have Olive and Benga currently seated at the unveiling of the Nigerian Local Government Integrity Index. Now, a new initiative aimed at deepening transparency and accountability at the grassroots was also highlighted. But to get more on this, let's take this report by correspondent Blessing Akibe, who compiled it. Take a look.
It was a gathering of government agencies, civil society organizations, and journalists to deliberate on ways to help the nation achieve its development aspirations. A major focus of the gathering was centered on a new reform termed Nigeria Local Government Integrity Index, aimed at strengthening accountability and transparency at the local government level.
Section 7 of the Constitution has clearly provided that local government councils should be governed by democratically elected officials. And there will be no democracy if there is no transparency and accountability. And people need to ask questions, people need to follow up. And this issue is not only for anti-corruption agencies, but rather the citizens also need to try to see how they will try to put a lot of pressure on those who are the helm of the affairs.
What the index has just done is to practically look at those areas where interventions are needed, and where there are about 8 pillars around governance structures that things need to be taken into consideration so that the local governments can effectively deliver what they're supposed to deliver to the people.
The center says that there is need for better transparency mechanisms, exposing how funds are managed and services delivered at the grassroots level.
Since the Supreme Court judgment of 2024 in July, nobody really knows what to do with the local governments. And there are too many speculations about whether they are receiving their finances directly or they are not. And as you may recall, we had a program earlier in the year together with Agora Policy on whether these things have been happening. And from the evidence we have, we don't think they have been receiving their funds directly for several reasons. But that aside, we believe the local government, the data shows that the governance structures there are very weak, and there needs to be a lot of enhancement of trainings and capacity building so that they can deliver the dividends of democracy and enhance good governance.
On our own part, we'll move in to ensure that we look at the areas you raise concerns and to use our own mandate to try to see that we help Nigerians and also to block leakages.
They say that ensuring fiscal responsibility, granting full financial autonomy, and empowering citizens to track how public funds are used will not only curb corruption, but also strengthen service delivery for local governments.
Well, away from that story, in a bid to unite Nigerians against electoral fraud and corrupt leadership, the New Direction for Nigeria movement says that it is mobilizing over 30 million citizens ahead of the 2027 elections to ensure credible and capable leaders emerge. The convener, Mark Adebayo, urged Nigerians to stand against the appointment of unqualified persons whose sole purpose is to manipulate upcoming elections in favor of certain political parties or candidates. He tasked citizens to support candidates with integrity, vision, and the capacity to transform Nigeria.
The New Direction for Nigeria movement is an authentic coalition of the Nigerian people coming together to find solutions to the erratic and corrupted leadership recruitment system of Nigeria, fire compromised electoral processes that always deny the most popular and capable candidates who are genuinely determined to fix Nigeria, and put her among the functional and advancing committee of nations from winning. We are building structures as grassroots mass movement of Nigeria outside of party lines as a huge voting bloc to support candidates of our choice at national, subnational, and legislative elections. Election riggers get away with their crimes simply because Nigerians only agonize. But we have refused to organize in any significant manner. We call on Nigerians to reject and resist the appointment of any misfit procured to manipulate the next series of elections to suit the purpose of a political party and their candidates.
Well, let's hope that would bring a new dawn, especially to every single Nigerian who's looking forward to have a free and fair election. But that's not all. Today also marks a very interesting day concerning what will happen if you are driving with a tint permit or without a tint permit. It's between the Nigerian Bar Association and, of course, the Nigerian Police. Well, let's bring you a recap of some of the biggest stories we've had this hour here on Breakfast Central. Talked about Fubara and Wike meeting River State elders. A lot of conversations around that too. Transparency at local government level, this needs to be a continuous one, and we brought you that report. Not forget to do combating corruption and, of course, in leadership. Do stay with us here on Breakfast Central. We are counting down to the next hour here, and what we'll be talking about coming up next. NBA President faults judicial delay, calls for reform. Former President Goodluck Ebele Jonathan mauls ADC move, and Dave Umahi pledges support in road repairs, especially that in Edo State. Stay with us for details shortly.
Welcome back to Breakfast Central, where we're broadcasting live from the Nigerian Economic Summit, the 31st edition, happening live at the Federal Capital Territory in Abuja. Now, this morning, we're moving the conversation into the legal perspective. We've spoken about politics, where we looked at what's happening in River State and the meeting between Nyesom Wike and Siminalayi Fubara and what that means for the people of River State. This time, we're looking at a statement by the Nigerian Bar Association's president, that's Mazi Afamosigwe, SAN, who had spoken to some of the changes that needs to be adopted in Nigeria's legal space. He's talked about criticizing the judicial delays and talked about digitization of court processes, highlighting the ways in which we can further strengthen our democracy. All of this was said at the 2025-2026 legal year ceremony. This morning we're joined by a lawyer, Barrister Monday Ajay, as we x-ray the conversations that have been had and what the next steps are. Good morning, and thank you very much for joining us.
Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning. It's great to have you. I'm just going to run through a few things that were highlighted. It's quite a long speech. I think it was about 28 minutes, so we can't go into this. So judicial delays and how this in some measure fuel public distrust. There was also bias in judicial appointments, which have been a long-time conversation. He also spoke to the need for full digitization, that's electronic filing, virtual hearings, and real-time case tracking. He also talked about bail processes being used for political oppression and unjust detention. He talked about child justice. Of course, minors should not be tried and detained alongside adults. However, MDA was criticized recently over front row seats reservations for celebrity lawyers. There's so many other things that were spoken about, and I'm sure that you were there, you heard the speech. How does the speech come across to you, and how did it come across to you, the points that he raised, and do you think that maybe there are certain areas that you think he should have spoken to that he didn't speak to? Like, I did see some people who criticized the fact that he didn't speak about Mazi Nnamdi Kanu. So let's get your thoughts.
Thank you very much. Naturally, when the president of Nigerian Bar Association has made a certain position, that represents the interest of the entire bar, and you are not entitled to give a divergent view about that position. But notwithstanding, we also have the right to comment on the veracity or otherwise of that statement. He has said it all, so I'm in the position now just to lend my support to what he has stated. Of course, whether you like it or not, the judiciary is a product of the society we find ourselves. Whether we like it or not, in every system, including this station, there are good eggs and bad eggs. It's natural. And that's why there are rules and regulations that guide our conduct. Otherwise, there will no need for rules and regulation. Having made that position clear, the reason why all of us are talking about judiciary today is because of the nature and the sacrosanct of the office they occupy, being the last hope for common man. And just like Caesar's wife, you must live above board. All what Mr. President of MBA have stated, they are the facts that is telling on our face in the judiciary, whether we like it or not. This is time for us to speak up so that at the end of the day, we know what to address and not to address. But if I may go into some of the key points you raised on the issue of appointments, I'm a bit surprised that even the Chief Judge or the CGN of the Federal Republic of Nigeria has been commenting on these same issues. Now, that you blow the pipe and dictate the tune. The mode of appointing our judges today is not the best standard for the system we find ourselves in. It's more or less like, with apology, Benin monarchical system where the son of the late king will take over from the father. When you look at the system, you discover that everybody just wants to plant their kids, their children in this system. as they are living. We are not saying they are not qualified. That's not the issue. But are they really interested? Are they the best for this job? Are they the one that can give us what the society deserves? The answer is no. Because when you force a person to take up an appointment that is not from his own mind, you cannot force him to do what is expected of him in respect of that office. So when you put somebody there, they don't know what to do with apology, the system will be messed up. And that's one of the cardinal challenges that is facing us on our face in the judiciary. That one is appointments.
Yeah, brilliant speech from the NBA president. He did highlight the litany of issues facing the Nigerian judiciary. But critics will say year after year, you have these grand NBA conferences, you sit down, you talk, you know the problems. But how much progress have you made or are you making? And that brings me to the question of restoring confidence of the common man in the Nigerian judiciary. You often hear the phrase, go to court, or the judiciary is the last hope of the common man. But many people don't feel that way anymore. So what do we need to do as a people, or the NBA and the stakeholders, when it comes to restoring trust in the judiciary and making it really the last hope of a common man?
Quickly, I also have the same challenge as you are raising it. And the last conference we have in Enugu, I also engaged some of my colleagues and the seniors alike, that it has now become a natural event that we gather in a state and we make a lot of heavy noise. At the end of the day, we come back the same next year, the same topic, the same issue are being canvassed. And nobody has ever assessed what have we achieved in the last conference, our communique that we reach, what was the level of implementation, so as to guide us on the next line of action. These things are missing in NBA. And of course, you know, Nigerian factor, we talk too much. Everybody, you see everybody making us, when it comes to action, nobody, and that's why some of these African countries are better than us. Their wars are mad with action. But our own, and the politicians have discovered that this is our weak point. We can make noise and talk and speak the best English in the whole world. At the end of the day, the thing will die down naturally. That's a problem on the part of NBA. We must add little reasonable force, enforcement to whatever we are taking. And we must have a kind of instrument on ground that will assess the level of achievement of what we have agreed or those challenges that we identify, whether social or social person has complied or not. That will also guide us and make the system a better. But this thing is missing in NBA, apart from the talk show and what have you that we keep on doing as a ritual. And that's not the better. That cannot help the system.
All right. We had a list of SANs recently that were welcomed, you know, and celebrated. We did see the induction ceremony, and of course it was a very large celebration, but part of what he had spoken about was broadening eligibility for the rank of Senior Advocate of Nigeria. How important do you think that is?
In every profession, there is hierarchy. If you get to the military, they have the hierarchy. I'm sure you two also have your peak of career here.
Senior anchor.
That's good. And whether you like it or not, in legal profession, that's the highest level you can attain. But from all indication and what we can see, at least to the best of my knowledge, I discovered that this particular body has not been given their rightful place in the legal profession. And I will not even blame those who are in charge. The way you address determines how you be addressed. If you are firm and then as a body and people knows your position, then whether you like it or not, nobody will take your rightful place from you. But when you are so relaxed and you allow things to go naturally, of course, people will bypass you and do a lot of things. And I think that's what is happening to the body of Senior Advocate of Nigeria. This is the time for them to take their rightful place and be assertive and be firm in whatever they are doing, because they owe this profession a duty. They are the ones that set the pace for the juniors want to follow. And they must not fail us in this responsibility. And they must always stand by what is just and noble for the interests of the society. Until that one is done, the body that's supposed to recognize them will always look the other way around.
So sorry, I want to still push back on that a little. I think the perspective would be also that many people believe that right now it feels like it's easier for a camel to pass through the eye of a needle than for one to qualify to become a senior advocate of Nigeria. They talk about how behind the scenes it's incredibly difficult in terms of, yes, we know that there are a certain number of cases you ought to have done, some pro bono cases, and depending on the, some years of experience that's required. So I think maybe the question might be, do you think that we need to reduce how difficult it is to become a senior advocate of Nigeria? There's also behind the scenes talks of it being in some measure politicized, right? So do you think that there are ways we need to maybe revisit the criteria for those who are eligible to become senior advocates?
Anything behind the scene is not to the public or the knowledge of the public, so we don't have to go to what happened behind the scene. They are more like a hearsay. But let me quickly add, to me, there's need for us to really amend the qualification guidelines, because in other climes, you don't pay as much as we pay in Nigeria here. And it's strictly on merit. People will look at your contribution toward the legal profession. Then you'll be invited. Then they will stray your work and then pick you there. But in Nigeria, in fact, most of the people who even spend much of their time in adding value to the profession, because of the financial commitment, they don't even want to go there. And that's another challenge. To me, I think we should be of more merit. Look at what this man has contributed, right from lower court to the highest court of the land. Then from there you can invite him, apart from the one that you also obtain through whatever. So it should be an additional one.
Financial commitment part of it.
You said?
The financial commitment part. What is required?
As we speak now, of course, there's certain money you have to pay, and the money, the reason why you pay for this and that is about the society to be got. They themselves complain that this money will be used to facilitate some of what you are doing. So,
yes. But before because we're pressed for time and we understand you have a court appearance to attend this morning. Talking about public interest, let's talk about an issue that is currently making the rounds in the media, the impunity and wanton disregard for court orders. And I'm using the tin permit case as an example. I believe a federal high court in Delta State did issue an order saying that everybody should return to status quo. But the Nigerian police, you have senior lawyers there, that's meant to enforce the law, seems to disregard it, and they've gone ahead to impound vehicles. I mean, the fact that they're not even issuing tickets, the fact that they're impounding those vehicles is a conversation for another day. Why do we have this sort of things? The courts issue orders that is meant to be sacrosanct, and people decide which orders they will obey or not, and then you find an institution of law, the Nigerian police, disregarding the law. Is there any interpretation? Because you lawyers have a way of saying it's not yes or no now. It's not black and white. It's how do you interpret it? What color do you interpret this tab to? Black or white? Yes. So what's your take on that?
Well, a society that failed to value the positive order of a court is heading to a gym, and that's what is happening to us. If you like, travel to UK, any part of the world, and be win investors, they will not come because we don't take our judiciary with all sense of seriousness. Because if I come here to invest and there's no hope for me at the judiciary, or people don't respect the order of the society, the judiciary, nobody will come. Now, coming back to the issue proper, the order of the court is clear and positive. If a court made an order, parties should maintain the status quo. The question you ask, what does this Nigerian police force stand to lose for this duration that wait, hold on until we determine this motion on notice? You see, the problem is not even with the Nigerian police. I also blame the judiciary, because most of the time they back and they cannot bite. If an order of a court has been violated, the party involved knows what to do. You go and apply for contempt of court. The Attorney General of Edo State some years ago was detained for the same offense. And I know before he leave the office, he never played with the order of the court. This is an Attorney General of a state who knows the law. Now, if our court can show some of these characters where they belong in the society, everybody will stand tall and they do the right thing. There is no need for us to waste time on this issue. It's clear. Maintain status quo. Of course, the issue of what they are trying to implement is not a perishable thing that this tomato before tomorrow everything will go rotten. These are things that anytime the court rule in your favor, you resume. Why are they in a hurry? Are they not serving the interest of the nation? And the judiciary is there to tell them what to do. And this idea of we are not being served properly, these are laymen or whatever. We're in a modern world. We're in a modern where technologies thrive everywhere. Tell me if the IG or whoever and others who are in charge, they are not aware about the development. So you see, when some of these characters want to dodge their duty performing what they expect of them, you see them coming with some of these funny excuses here and there.
Indications for that.
Of course. If there is evidence, anyway, to me, I will not even blame because by law, they have to be served personally with the other. But a responsible institution who is aware of that development should hold on and exercise a level of restraint so that the outcome of the court will not be an exercise of futility at the end of the day.
Okay, I mean, there are other angles to look at, but we might be running out of time. But let's talk about the role that the judiciary has to play in ensuring, because I heard you say that you also blame the judiciary for them being, for this law, for backing and not fighting. What systems need to be put in place to ensure that we restore the sanctity of the judiciary? Because as it is, it currently isn't there. The judiciary can give a law, can give an order, a court judgment, and the executive or another arm will decide to do whatever they want to do. What measures do we need to put in place to restore that sanctity back to where it should be?
The first thing we need to address is the independence of the judiciary. No matter how good you are here, you can now outshine, let me use that common language, your proprietor here, who is doing all this, whatever. If you say, look, this is the direction I want you to go, whether you like it or not, the option left for you is to resign and find your way. That is what is happening because there is fear everywhere. If I go this way, I don't know what so person will do to me. In fact, when you engage some of these judicial officers, they will tell you that if they go this way, there is this fear, and all of us have a bad past. There is this fear that what I did in primary school, somebody may come and write petition, and before you know it, it's just like about a bird that want to fly. You now throw a stone. So everybody, there is this fear because of this independence. Tell me what government has to do by giving tasks to judges. What is their business? Are we now saying the judicial arm cannot take care of their own affair? Governor will not be giving a motorcycle, bicycle, what have you, to magistrate and judges. What for? It's just like what I'm telling you, that you deter the tune. So you can now see that the level of independence is not there, unlike what happened in another same crime. And that is where there is this fear.
Independence, like a minute, because we've been talking about the independence of judiciary right from when I was in university, before I went to law school, and that's been over a decade. And yet we haven't yet seen that independence play out.
Now the whole work of war lies in the judiciary themselves. Anytime they have this opportunity to assert and affirm their independence, you see them missing the opportunity. They own every power within them to do whatever they want to do. But anytime they have this opportunity to declare their independence, you'll be surprised that what you hear is a different thing. So this is the challenge we're having. It lies on them. If they want to be independent, it's in their hand. If they don't want to be independent, it's left for them.
All right, Monday Eje, thank you so much for joining us this morning. It's been quite an interesting conversation with Mr. Monday Eje, who is lawyer, legal practitioner. We've explored some of the loopholes in Nigeria's current legal space, as well as how we can plug these loopholes. We'll continue to advocate for the independence of the judiciary and a judiciary that is respected by all and sundry. We're going to break now. When we come back, Breakfast Central continues. Remember, we're coming to you live from Nigerian Economic Summit, happening here at the Federal Capital Territory, Abuja. We'll be right back.
Welcome back. We're back to Lagos. Nigeria's former President Goodluck Ebele Jonathan is set to be considering aligning with the African Democratic Congress ahead of the 2027 general elections as the party's coalition of opposition forces gather strength and intensify consultations with key political stakeholders across the country. In recent weeks, there have been reports suggesting that former President Goodluck Jonathan may contest the 2027 elections against President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. Although Jonathan is yet to make an official statement regarding his intentions, several leaders of the People's Democratic Party have been calling on him to run on the party's platform. While some Nigerians support the idea and even suggest alternative platforms, others have advised him not to join the race. Well, with me here in the studios in Lagos, I do have the chairman of the African Democratic Congress in Lagos State, Mr. George Ashiru, joins me. Thank you so much for making it here on a Monday morning.
My pleasure always, my brother.
All right. This conversation is one that I think we need to really dig deep, and hopefully you'll give us the answers on a Monday morning that the viewers would love to hear. One of the big questions is there seems to be a lot of political titans who are rallying for the top prize, the main position. You do have, according to the rumors, the former president, Goodluck Ebele Jonathan, who's tinkering with the idea of joining the ADC. Seems to be a party to beat now. And then you also have a former vice president, who used to be vice president as well, also looking to be part of it. Recently, he said he's not stepping down for anybody. I'm talking about Alhaji Atiku Abubakar. And then you also have a former 2023 presidential aspirant in the name of Mr. Peter Gregory Obi. That's not all. You have many others also there. Are you certain that the ADC will not implode now that you're happy? Isn't it going to be? Is it going to implode?
If we look at the history of Nigerian governance and politics, it has always been as a result of the coalition of powerful forces. You know, the First Republic, it was a coalition of different forces in the various parliaments. The Second Republic, again, in order to form the NPN that formed government, it was different people, different political actors from the north, from the east. It was even only the southwest that had excluded itself by forming the UPN, and they came together in some form of a coalition to form government in 1979. And so what had happened in 1999 is similar. The presumption that it was just one group of people that formed government, it would have been a fallacy. It was different political, like you would say, juggernauts came together to form the PDP in order to be able to form government. Don't forget other parties existed, and it was contested. And when people felt, okay, we have tried the PDP for a decade and a half, let us see if there's going to be another type of government, a different kind of leadership. And then, Nigerians rallied around an organization which is now still in government, whose name I don't think I need to mention because everybody knows. But this time around, the African Democratic Congress is the party that the Nigerian people, feel has the best potential, not having a history of malfeasance, not having a history of misgovernance and maladministration, and all of the things that bedevil everyone else, has a very strong constitution, and a DNA is something that appeals to Nigerians. That is the reason you can see so many different juggernauts who are part of the foundations of this country involved in what we're doing in African Democratic Congress. You see, there's a difference between them merging or creating a new party. They came into an existing party because they found that party to have the right kind of ideology that can bring all Nigerians together. So when you now speak about former President Goodluck Jonathan coming to our fold, we do hope so. We do hope so, because he will be in good company. He'll be in company of a man who was once a Senate president. He will be in the company of people that he's used to, that he trusts, that maybe never betrayed him, as he said he was betrayed. And that would make more sense than to stay within an organization that the betrayers were in and probably still are in.
But are you not worried? Because if the primaries do come, there seems to be so many names right there on the folders, in the folder rather. And who would you rather go for? Who would the people pick? The selection processes, the choice, every single thing borders on ensuring that you have the right candidates that will represent the ADC. And should this go south or not go well, don't you think it's going to backfire?
I think the key thing is that the ADC, as is constituted, as you can see, is a national party. So we have strong leaders in the southwest, the Aregbesolas, and so many others in the southwest. You have in the southeast, we have mentioned Mr. Peter Obi himself, His Excellencies, these two of them. And of course, in the north, you have, even in the south, we have the likes of Rotimi Amici, His Excellency. In the north, we have El-Rufai, His Excellency, and across, the various individuals, Tambuwal and Co. So it shows that we have a broad consensus around this party. And these are people that are used to winning and losing. They understand the principles of negotiating and giving up seats for one another. So I think we're going to have an extremely important primaries when the time comes. And I suspect that you'll be surprised that there will be consensus by the delegates in terms of who might end up becoming the presidential candidate. But it's too early for us to predict that, because we are only seeing the ones we have seen. There could be another 20, 30, 40 more juggernautes coming in the next few months. And so when they all come in, they will pull their resources together.
Too much ingredients, they say, it spoils the soup. Isn't this going to be a very tough one to choose?
No,
anyway?
but it's better than having a one-man kind of party when one man decides the fate and the future of the party. That is not democratic, and that's what we're running away from.
Anyway, Dumebi Kachukwu, who happens to be a former member of the party, as many have resorted that he's a former member, not an active member, is seeking a reversal of the court, reversal of the mentioning or naming of the current political leaders, saying that it's illegal. Although we hear that the court has indeed thrown out that request. What's your take on having former members of the party who still say they're members and they're claiming to ensure that things are done properly, or are things not done properly as it stands?
Well, the critical decision-making process in the party is that there is a national executive committee of the party that comprises the national officers and the state chairman. And as long as the majority, because we have to remember again, we are not in a kakistocracy or in a dictatorship. When one person decides what happens in the entire party, people are allowed to have their dissenting opinions. But as long as the majority vote in a particular direction, that is democracy. And the votes in favor of what we are doing is that we have existed for 19 years. We have seen, in the same way, I'll give an example. Former President Buhari ran for office 3 times before realizing, I can't do it alone. He decided to come together with someone who was one of his greatest detractors to form the APC, and they were able to form government. So there's a realism that comes in politics that sometimes you can't go it alone. You need to partner with other Nigerians to show that you truly want to serve Nigeria, not just your own personal interests. So clearly we don't have a problem with that, but there will always be those who will say, maybe not. Then of course you brought something up about whether due process was followed. The consumer must have been consulted, lawyers must have been consulted before the various moves were made. And the fact that INEC confirms that that process was followed and then it was ratified shows that if you go to court, every party you will call into a court case will say, as far as we can see, due process and the constitution was followed.
There's someone who's singing now a different kind of song. It's got to do with the song of listening to the angels, according to him. And he's saying that there's a voice that sounds like a thunderous. I don't know if it's out of God though. But he says the voice is telling him, go and join EDC, go and join EDC. I'm talking about Dr. Tunde Bakare, a pastor as well, of the Citadel Global Community Church. Do you have any information on that? Is he likely to join the ADC? Has he reached out, or have you reached out?
I think the thing you have to find quite interesting is the fact that ADC is reaching out. The fact that leaders in the ADC are reaching out to every critical, prominent Nigerian. Muslim, Christian, North, South, East, West, North, Central. And that shows that the alliance we're trying to create, has the national outlook and represents every type of leadership. And I think that's the most important thing. So if we have reached out to Pastor Tunde Bakare, it means we're doing the right thing rather than exclude people like that from the process of, you see, these are people that fought for Nigeria. We let us not forget Go Save Nigeria Group, Occupy Nigeria Group, and all those things. They were prominent people. So for us to go ahead and not want them to be part of what we're doing, that is when you can then say that is actually trying to create an organization to serve somebody's personal interests. But here, by bringing strong-minded people, people that have good, clean hands into our party, then we're going to have the checks and balances between those who are leaders of conscience and political gladiators. So it's a fantastic opportunity. We know that is happening, and we believe that the voice of Nigerians will, at the end of the day, will be the voice of God in his ears. And if he's listening to this, or any of his people listening to that, we will say it is God's will. Let it be so.
Okay. All right. ADC recently also criticized President Bola Ahmed Tinubu for focusing too much on politics and ignoring the high-level insecurity in the land. I'm sure you're aware of what's happening in the FCT, Kwara State, and the likes. And then the ADC put out a statement clearly stating that it seems the president is too focused on his political ambition and not looking at the level of insecurity. There's a tweet that also did resurface of the current president criticizing the former president who has been touted to join the ADC, where he said that he needed to focus on insecurity as well. I don't know if we have that tweet to try as much as possible to put it back there on the screen. There it is. In 2014, January 29, he said the slaughtering of Christian worshippers is strongly condemnable. It calls to question the competence of Jonathan to protect Nigerians. Does the ADC think that it's really about politics, or it's a case of incompetence, or a case of sheer neglect?
Again, it is. It's a matter of prioritization. What are you prioritizing? If your prioritization in terms of governance is about provision of security of lives and property of Nigerians, which is one of the key expectations of a president, then we will see it and feel it. When Lagos State, supposedly one of the most secure places, but the chairman of road transport workers is threatening people in Lagos State that if they go vote in a certain way, that they are going to face violence. And nobody from government had anything to say about it.
Yeah, but the DSS has picked him up.
But nobody from government, DSS is typically, yes, an institution that should take care of that. But you would have expected a condemnation from the Lagos State government. You would have expected a public condemnation from the presidency, that this is not the kind of democracy we practice. The fact that in Alimosho several weeks ago, your station was there to see evidence of violence. The fact that just a few weeks ago in Koshofe, there were local thugs, one of whom was a brother of a LCDA chairman, who came to an ADC meeting with a gun and cutlasses and said, how do you then tell us you are actually governing for the people if these things are already happening even in the home state of the president?
What does this portend for 2027?
So this is what we're saying. So it is right to say that, too much politicking, not enough governance. Because if you were really governing, these sort of things, there's a message you send out, and nobody will attempt to do those things. But it appears that there is an eye on the ball has been removed from the area of security. It's been left to the military. Go and deal with them, take the money and do as you like. The most important thing is to position myself to come back to office. And people know when politics is played, people can tell the difference from when governing is being meted out for their benefit. And I think this is what we are seeing here. And it's not going to reduce because, a listening government is the one that doesn't take every form of criticism as a personal attack. A listening government listens, especially to the opposition, and then provides answers so that we are all feeling that fair enough, doing your best in the best circumstances, even in the worst of circumstances. We're not seeing enough of that.
You mentioned the NURTW boss who had spoken warning, but let's see the video just for the benefit of our viewers so they can actually get to understand what really matters here.
Another party is a counterfeit. Whether you like or not, I don't care for all. Nǹkan tó ṣẹlẹ̀ ní ọ̀dọ̀ yìnyẹn, èyí tó ṣẹlẹ̀ ní ọ̀dọ̀ yìnyẹn, tó ṣẹlẹ̀ ní ọ̀dọ̀ yìí tí owó ilé mọ̀, ìjọ tí ò tó yẹ tó bá kọ̀ ṣẹlẹ̀ anybody ẹ̀sìn lọ. Gbogbo ọmọ tó bá wà lábẹ́ yín tí wọ́n fẹ́ ṣe àmàbá rí pé ó tàṣì àgẹ̀rẹ̀ kò látòrí pákínà tó báyìí kó tàṣì àgẹ̀rẹ̀ ìyọ́bí ẹni yọ jìgà kò lè ní ẹ́fídẹ́ǹsì ẹ̀rọ wọn ìyọ́dàrú kò sí bàbá lẹ́yìn tó lè dá padà. Alágbàṣẹ wọn lọ́rùn ẹ̀ àdúgbò ẹ̀ ló fẹ́ ṣakọ àtúnṣe bí àlẹ́ ìyá ẹ̀ pa ẹ̀rọ wà ẹ̀ sàkáfù pátá. Báyọ̀ ti dé kọ́ sí ìtókì o Báyọ̀ fọ̀ APC tó tí wọ́n bá wù ẹ́ àgbọ̀ tó ṣe tó ní ìwọ́n tó ṣẹlẹ̀ ní 2023 akọ̀wé ìdíwọ̀n ẹ̀ tẹ̀bá wù 2027 ló wá ṣe kí ẹ̀tẹ̀ ọláyé ẹ̀ṣọ́wọ́ náà òye.
And that's the National Union of Road Transport Workers Chairman, known as Adekunle Mustafa, also known as Sego. there telling his people that what happened in 2023
with child's play
will not happen in 2027. However, we do hear that the DSS has picked him up and they've questioned him. In line, he has said that he didn't mean any harm. That is just a statement. This also can be linked to what had happened in 2023, where, of course, a popular, another person had threatened and said that using, ethnic slur, that nobody should come out to vote if you're not ready. And that led to people holding canes and flogging people. And we saw some street urchins coming around the streets of Lagos shouting, if you're not voting for APC, don't come outside. What does this mean for the ADC as 2027 is just around the corner? Does this mean that you have to be prepared, not just looking at the elections, but also trying to get yourself prepared?
You know what is sad about this is that a union is very clearly political. They are partisan. And yet, inside that union, you'd expect people who come from different areas of this country, who probably have different political interests. But their leader is telling them that this party, this union belongs to a party. That's an anomaly nobody took note of, number one. Number two, and very importantly, he mentioned an event that happened in Ajegunle. That was an ADC event. It was successful. Over 700 people rallied, indirectly telling them that the fact that you allowed this to happen, we're going to suspend you, we're going to do this and we're going to do that to you. We can send you the video of the event. It was extremely successful. And that was following up on the attempt to block the one in Ali Mosho. Yeah. So it was like, how can you block Ali Mosho? And then you allow this to happen. This is number two. And number three, and more importantly in all of this, is not just the partisanship that goes with it. It's the fact that you are a service provider. And the people that enter your buses include Igbo, Hausa, Takpa, Yoruba, Nupe, South. But you are telling them that we want your money in our buses, but we don't want you to vote when it's time for election. And you collect taxes. These are the kind of anomalies we say any serious government will have a statement to follow this and say, we dissociate ourselves from this. The inability of the state and the federal government to dissociate and wait for the DSS to be making this arrest gives us the impression that there's impunity that is supported by the government in power. And you see, it's easy for any one person to say 2027 this will happen. May God help us that we're all alive and well in 2027. But it's not good for the citizens, the electorate. And don't forget that there was a court in Canada that made a pronouncement that certain parties have a tendency towards terrorism. And you see, these are the evidences that they will use to gather. And this is not good for the government if the people who support you use your name, the name of your party, to promote what you know is wrong. And the party had nothing to say, and the government had nothing to say. It took the DSS, and I'm sure it was a petition that made the DSS act on it.
Do you think anything will come out of this? Because so far, after the requests for him to show up at the DSS, there seems to be nothing at all. Does your party believe that something will come out of this? Maybe a statement from the DSS, a statement from the ruling party, clearly taking its stance.
There will not be. We have seen the antecedents. There wasn't any after the Aluma show that was clearly broadcast all over the country. There will not be any. And that's how you know when there is a subtle support for something. It is when you have no opinion publicly about it. You are indirectly telling everyone that, well, let it be as it is. See, let me say something on record here. The government is to be held responsible if any of these threats come to life between now and 2027 elections. The government and the party in power whose name was mentioned in that broadcast should be presumed or assumed to be behind it. And electorally, Lagosians and Nigerians should ask themselves if this is the sort of government they were hoping to get in 1999. I'm a Yoruba man. And for me to be disappointed at such a statement and such threats and such references to how people decided how to vote in the previous elections. This is not what people were fighting for. This is not what we rallied the university in order to push Babangida out of power. This is not what we were expecting to get. We were expecting the ability to live together, create a fantastic economy, allow people to live in peace, and take this supposedly to $1 trillion economy. We can't do that when we are destroying the same people who are going to be part of this GDP we are growing. So If you play politics above governance, we can see it. This is what is happening. Politics above, because if you are putting governance first, you will always make sure commercial interests, governing interests, they take precedence over political interests, especially if political interest will give you power but will destroy the country. This is something that the electorate needs to listen to and act on. And I think that's what ADC is standing for. That credible alternative that people are looking for, hoping that you would change this style of leadership, this feeling of impunity which Nigerians are tired of. We can't take it anymore.
But do you think it's possible to change it, especially in Lagos State?
Of course, why not?
Lagos State seems to be dominated.
Lagos has always been ahead when it comes to creating and fighting for change in this country. If Lagos was not at the center of the June 12 struggle, do you think it will happen? If Lagos was not at the center of occupying Nigeria and Save Nigeria group, is it not this same Lagos that we had a rally a couple of years ago at the toll gate? It's always Lagos is the center of every agitation for change. And that change usually comes. Maybe not instantly, but the DNA of that change is now imputed in the minds of people. People begin to want it. And the evidence that it worked was the result of the last election. And don't be surprised, 2027 may even be double. Because you'll be thinking because people are quiet, they're happy. Their quietness doesn't mean they're happy. In fact, their quietness is evidence that they're not happy. Apathy in Lagos is the highest in Nigeria, voter apathy. And do you know why they're apathetic? Fear. Feeling that, okay, if you people own it, you can do what you like with it.
So do you think they'll be able to beat the fear ahead of 2027?
Because all they need is, see, what if you are walking on the street and the bully comes after you and you are alone, you will run. But if you are walking, there are 40 of you and the bully comes, what happens to you? You feel secure. Coalition is that force that will make sure a bully cannot get through, because you look behind you and you realize you are not alone. The people of Lagos State will say, no mass. It's time for us to go and exercise our franchise. If you are providing good governance, we would be afraid of the votes. If you are giving the people what they want, you don't be afraid of how they're going to vote. And that's really the message that the government needs to take away. Provide good governance, and you can stay there forever. That's really the bottom line. The bottom line is this: HDI, human development indexes, reduce poverty, provide clean care, health care, good education. Make sure that you don't give 0.001% of the people the attention, and then you ignore the interests of all the others. That's all people are asking for. And if you're doing it right, nobody's going to stand against your government. But if you're not doing it right, if people feel it, if people sense it, like a man who has many wives and put all his resources on only one wife, the other wives and the children of those wives will not be happy. And so this is clearly what's going on. And you cannot answer it by simply threatening people in a democracy, or encourage people to threaten people in a democracy. It is wrong, it is even evil. And you see, there's always payback for evil. There's always payback. Go and ask all the dictators of the past in Nigeria, where are they today? A lot of them are gone, and the history of their actions are not recorded in the good sides of Nigeria history. It's better for this government to transform itself and be a government for the people, rather than sending people to threaten and kill people. This is the message that we need to send out.
We've seen different threats from Alimo Shaw to that made by the NURTW boss, as we've mentioned here as well. But my final question to you as we wrap up this conversation has got to do with the selection, choice, and ensuring that there is an INEC boss. There are calls that this should no longer be under the powers of the president, rather it should be moved to another, maybe just say move to the National Assembly, and shouldn't base solely on one person. Is the ADC sharing the same thoughts? Because we see other political parties sharing similar thoughts, even some political juggernauts in the past and also of recent.
Everybody in the political world wants electoral reforms. And one of the key aspects of electoral reforms is the process in which you select the INEC and the RECs in all the states, the INEC chairman and the RECs. So if we have a National Judicial Council, what is wrong with the National Judicial Council sending in 3 names and then to National Assembly to make a choice? Then at least you will know this is the people's choice, because the National Assembly represents the people, don't they? But when you leave the power of picking an INEC boss directly at the presidency, you and I know in the kind of democracy we are practicing in this country, the tendency will be to find a pro-presidency, the particular party in power choice. It's simple. It's just common sense. It's existentialism for them to do so. So in order to remove that temptation to put somebody who will listen to you, why don't you just as they say in general parlance, recuse yourself from that process and say, National Judicial Council, give me 3 names. I will forward them to the National Assembly. Then you can go and play your politics with the National Assembly. But at least people will see that you've gone through a proper methodology.
Do you think do you think that the APC will be willing to do that?
In 2027. Mm-hmm. If I think, what am I doing in ADC if I think that APC will win? I mean, ADC and the chairman of ADC, the work we're doing is to ensure that, you see,
do you think you'll be willing to relinquish that power of choosing?
It's not a matter of willing to relinquish the power. It's the fact that the power is with the people. And as long as people vote, and people stand with their votes, whoever wins, wins. Just remove this idea that you can win violently. Just remove it. Because when you create tension in the land, you are asking for people to respond. That's why I say, let us hold the government in power responsible for anything that happens between now and 2027. I'm stating it here. They go hold the government. When you hold the government in power, it means even after you left office, immunity is no longer with you. The security forces will come after anybody that promotes violence in any form, in a democracy. No, enough is enough. Thank you, sir.
All right, I said my final question, but does this in any way sing the same song when we hear that the United States is equally looking at ensuring that they identify those who are promoters of insecurity, violence, and the likes, be it politicians or not, and they're looking at putting a ban on them?
Naturally.
Does that work?
Naturally.
Do you think that will work, by the way?
You see, that's why I said, whatever you do, there's a payback day. You know, when your immunity is gone, that's when you will discover that, you know, there was a former governor of this Lagos state. I was at the embassy, you know, a couple of years ago, and he was trying to, you know, get a US visa, and he was refused, purely because of his antecedents in office. You know, I was there trying to get in, you know, like we were in a line, and we saw how he was embarrassed at the gate, and it was like, no, we already have a profile on you, a former governor in this same Lagos state. I'm not going to tell you whether it's military or not military, but you see, number one, historically, people don't forget.
But you just whet our appetite and you're living
you know, but I'm simply saying that there is always a time when history will judge you for the things you did while in office. And the history will not remember the good things you do. They will remember the evil things that came while you were in that place. So I'm appealing to the people in power that find a way to sell yourselves to the people rather than threaten and intimidate them.
Thank you so much for your time, Mr. George Ashiru, ADC Chairman, Lagos State. Thanks for being here with us.
It's my pleasure. Thank you.
All right. We'll go on a quick break. When we come back, we'll take a look at what the headlines are saying. Don't forget to, we have the front pages, and then we'll also connect again with Olive and Binga. Hopefully, they are indeed set and ready for the Nigerian Economic Summit 31, which starts today. It's 3 days, starting from Monday all the way to Wednesday, and why you have a special broadcast here on Breakfast Central. I'm Joe Hansen. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Thanks so much for staying with us here on News Central's Breakfast Central. Just to remind you that we are live in Abuja for the Nigerian Economic Summit. And you do have the rest of the team members who are there. I'm talking about Binga and also mentioning Olive. They'll be joining us in between later on. Today is the first day out of day 3. And lots of conversations concerning inclusivity and Nigeria's economic summit, most importantly, ensuring that everything is indeed very viable. But before then, let's look at the front page of the newspapers. I do have joining me today the one and only, you could call him the international journalist of repute. Thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Bibora, for being here. Yes.
How was the weekend?
Not bad, not bad. For those of us on the island, it was just stay indoors because there's no movement due to the E1, you know, and everybody just had to obey and just stay indoors. For those who decided to go out, well, I'm sure that they did enjoy the traffic that was right before them.
And the presidential presence.
Yes.
In the state.
Let's go straight to our first paper. And don't forget, you can be part of the front page of the newspapers by simply calling the number you'd find shortly on your screen. When you call the number, please don't forget to turn down the volume of your TV set When we welcome you, go ahead and make your contribution just for 60 seconds. Let's go to the Punch. That will be our first paper this morning. Let's see what the Punch says. At the top there, it says, petrol remains 865 naira per litre amid Dangote's free delivery. That's another report there. You find it inside of the Punch, page 9. FX inflows pushed naira to 1,465 per dollar. Nigeria's trade with African countries surges by 610 billion naira. Well, you've seen the numbers. We do hope that these numbers will translate to benefit and will profit Nigerians. Fubara's men absent at governor's reunion with Wike. Terrorism. Retired generals back calls for state of emergency. Finally, somebody is saying what I am saying. Aha. Ex-military chiefs, state of emergency will speed up anti-insurgency efforts. Only large-scale troop deployment can defeat Boko Haram, Northern elders say. Borno dismisses call, says Irabo entitled to opinion. E1, Lagos, Brazilian team win Lagos electric boat race. How Oshun and Monteku shot 2 siblings dead. Not again. Gunmen kill 4, shoot teenager near Lagos barracks. Ooh. And NMA conducts, let me take that carefully. NMA conducts court-ordered checks on Kano, submits report. I'm going to start off first with, let's take a look at terrorism. Retired generals back calls for state of emergency. I did mention this, and I've always been mentioning this, whether you like it or not, I've said, until there is a state of emergency, which will indeed allow the presidency, security chiefs, and Nigerians in total to give a proper look into the security architecture of Nigeria and focus solely on solving its problems, will we have victory. But if we keep handling it sparingly like we are, just allowing it to be, done best way possible, hitherto by the military or security operatives, and hope for the best, then I feel we would not achieve. But then again, retired generals are saying, yes, let's have a state of emergency. I don't know where you stand.
Well, that they must have a good thought about it. They must have discussed among themselves. They must have extensively look at the realities on ground before coming up with that kind of advice. But 2 things just occurred to me. Did they write a proposal, a memo to the federal government when they were there, before they retired? Did they write a memo? Because we need to find out why didn't they say this when they were in service? Because I know that this is a very big problem that we are having, particularly in some states in North Central and some in Northeast. We have Nigerian State. Kwara is becoming a problem. It's a troubling spot now. We have the amphitheater of this crisis in Borno State. So that is why the government is saying that. That is the opinion of those who are saying it. But I think this is becoming too long. It's becoming too prolonged. Government has a duty to protect its citizens. And I think the federal government should look at what these people are saying. Look at it. Put it on the table. Let the NSA and service chiefs discuss it. Let's then look at the viability. Is it possible? Because I think I also share that view that there should be something like an emergency in those areas, primarily in Zamfara, in Yobe, in part of Gombe, and in Borno State. And if you like, by extension, partly in Plateau, Niger, and Benue State. So it is how the security agency will have that power, right? We have the power to do and undo. There will not be any inhibitions at all from either the constitution or politician. I think it's something that you should look at. The viability should be discussed and see how it can be done, because it is becoming too prolonged.
It's becoming too long. Just recently, the guest I had, the Lagos State chairman for the ADC, we talked about insecurity and how the ADC has also highlighted that the current administration is focused on politics or politicking rather than the security challenges that the country is facing. I don't know if you also agree with that.
I listened to when he was speaking.
There's too much politics.
I tend to agree with that. to be a bit disposed to that kind of reasoning, that kind of argument. Because if you look at these people, look at the way they are running Nigeria. The president, because there's always an Alibaba in 40 thieves, right? So you have a president that may be working, have a president that may be finding it difficult to call the governors to order. The governors are responsible directly to citizens in their state. The governors are collecting more money now, right? So who is calling them to order? They have the state government, they have the state assemblies who are helplessly looking because they already control the governors. So, and some people are saying that the president is not taking action because of politics, because of the next election. Because if you take action that is inimical to the interest of the governors may decide to pay you back in your own coin, not work with you to consummate your second term ambition. These are the things I'm hearing. So if the ADC chairman is saying that kind of a thing, he must have a reason for saying so. But I think the president is doing his best. Doing his best in the sense that to rule Nigeria and the right. Look at the intervention last week in Pegasan and in Dangote. That is what government is all about. How it was handled is commendable, in my view. But the president is not calling to order these governors. The governors are not doing enough to better the welfare of citizens, to provide good governance in their various states. They are not doing enough. They are not spending the net, to tackle poverty, to tackle unemployment, to tackle roads, schools, hospitals. They have the money to do it. They are not doing it. Nobody is holding them accountable. And the president, presumably, is helpless because of the next election. So they're right.
All right, let's look at FX inflows, push Naira to 1,465 Naira per dollar. We're seeing the Naira gain strength, and some of it, I've identified this as the reason. The returnees, those who are coming back from abroad, who are entering, 30 December is around the corner, the ember months are here. I don't know what your take is, and maybe you've changed dollar recently. And you've
No. I'm not particularly, even though I have my son in UK, he has finished his course. But don't forget that over time, the Naira has been stable. The Naira has been stable over time, even though it was a bit difficult to slope it down when the president came to power 2 years ago. But it's been stable now. But then you need to ask yourself how much has been pumped to make it stable. I've been pumped. How has the government been able to make Nigeria less dependent in oil, foreign exchange from oil? The president said it when he was addressing the nation on last Wednesday, October 1st, that the economy is being diversified. And Nigeria is earning more money now, earning more money from non-oil exports. So I'm sure that is also contributing to the inflow of foreign exchange, because we have to spread around to make sure that the Nigeria export is export oriented, not import oriented. We keep on exporting, right, and less dependent in importation. There's no way Naira will not stable. It can only go better. But Nigeria must be disciplined, and government itself must be deliberate in enforcing its policy.
Okay, let's go to another paper now. Let's check out Daily Independent next. That's our next paper. We're going to take a look at Daily Independent very quickly. Experts see September inflation at 18.46% on back of falling food costs. Project further monetary easing at CBN November MPC meeting. Nigeria's fled gas in 4 years, enough to power 10,000 homes a year. Tinubu prioritizing politics over securing lives of Nigerians, ADC. We just talked about that not quite long ago. Serap gives governors Wike 7 days to account for 14 trillion naira fuel subsidy cut savings. I have also been asking, how much did Nigeria save? How much did Nigeria save from the subsidy? In other climes, I'm sure that while reading through the accounts and so on, it's expected that Nigerians will know if it were a company, the CEO would tell the staff and the board and tell everybody, listen, since we cut, this is how much we've been able to say. But we'll come back to that conversation. I want us to quickly switch gears to Abuja and join Olive, who's on ground, getting ready for the Economic Summit, which is holding at the Transcorp Hilton. Olive, okay, I can see right behind you, it seems that the stage is set. Can you tell us definitely what the venue looks like, although I can see a bit of it, and give us an update.
Where the Nigerian Economic Summit, the 31st edition of the Nigerian Economic Summit is happening. The conversations this year would look like seeing how we can create a Nigeria in 2030 that's not just developed economically, but also is inclusive. The theme, I'm going to read the actual theme, it says, the reform imperative, building a prosperous and inclusive Nigeria by 2030. In comparison to last year, I think more people turned out earlier this year. The hall is very full. There are people even standing at the back. You would see the excitement with which people have come for this year's conference, showing their willingness to be involved in conversations that look at how we can champion an inclusive economy in 2030. Outside the hall, we also have stalls. All the different partners have set up their stalls, and they're very excited to have the conversation. So what we do is there are people who go for the exhibition before, during the event, as well as after the event. There'll also be breakout sessions. This will last from the 6th to the 8th of October. There'll be breakout sessions with some of the CEOs, just smaller groups and fractions of conversations, still centered around the main theme. And here on Breakfast Central, we will not just be broadcasting live from this hall, we'll also be interviewing a number of the participants, finding out what the expectations are, what the projections for the next 5 years will be, because that's what the conversations today really would be about, Joe. The next 5 years, 2025 to 2030. How do we create a Nigeria that we're proud of, one that is economically and inclusively advanced? These are the conversations we're looking to have today. I can run you through what the program is looking like. We have a panel session. There's one on the health productivity link. Building a resilient workforce will be one of the conversations. We also have the keynote address, several keynote addresses. We'll be also focusing on the youth and the future of Nigeria. There would also be a fiscal policy reform conversation. And, as we proceed, we'll be connecting with the studio to have a feel of some of these conversations. Over to you, Joe.
Thank you so much, Olive. That's a well-rounded report, letting us know what's going on. And like I said, just behind you, I could see everyone is finding their seats and getting ready for the start of day one. 3 days, back-to-back, and News Central will be covering that. Just one last word before you go. Can you tell us, where is Benga, by the way?
Benga is behind the camera. He's also going to be here having the conversations. Benga, I don't need to see anyone. Just come, let them see your face behind the camera. So we're going to be steering the conversations together. We'll be interviewing people as well. So stick around. We'll be getting first-hand coverage of the Nigerian Economic Summit 2025. I'm already saying 2030. Exactly, it's the 31st edition. We're already projecting for what Nigeria will look like in 2030.
All right. Can you give the mic to Benga? We do have Mr. Habib Aruna, who's here as well.
Relax. We hope this doesn't just end up as a talk shop. Yeah. We hope to see implementation of the recommendations by all these experts that have gathered here in the course of the next few days to deliberate on the reform imperative and so many other things that we'll be talking about here. Exciting prospects. Sit back, relax, and we'll bring you all the gist and the big stories coming out of the Nigerian Economic Summit.
Well done, guys, and keep it going. Hopefully we'll connect to you guys in the course of our day-to-day bulletin and news coverage starting from today. But thanks for joining us. Let me go back to the papers right now. Mr. Bibarona, the Nigerian Economic Summit 31. Yeah.
And I like the way they introduced what they'll be discussing, the setup, and what Nigerians are likely going to be seeing and be listening to today. It's a major summit, that's where policymakers, both private and public sector, come together to support ideas how to move this country forward. And now that we are facing challenges in the country, so there's only bad in them discussing concretely how to move this country forward. I only hope the president will be there to address them.
Let's hope. Last year we did have the vice president who came and did the opening address. And then, of course, we also had a few ministers who equally made it there to speak to every single person who was there as well. But allow me to go back to the papers. Daily Independent is the paper we're looking at. Serap is actually on the front page there. Serap gives governors a week, 7 days to account for 14 trillion naira fuel subsidy cut savings. Like I did say, we're expecting to have gotten a proper breakdown of how much a country like Nigeria, how much we've saved from subsidy and where these monies have gone to. If you ask anybody from the current administration, they'll tell you that you do have the education sector, which is also being focused on. You have infrastructure. You also have more governors receiving more monies. That these three angles, that's where you have the money from subsidy, and that's where they're going to. That's where the monies are going to. And I'm wondering, okay, that's where the money is going to, but how much was realized in savings? I don't know if you have a different perspective to that.
No. I always believe that. You see, in democracy presupposes that citizens ask questions from their leaders, and their leaders give answers in terms of being accountable to the people. You are elected to an office. You are responsible to the people, and people demand accountability, right? This accountability can be done in many ways. It can be through the media. It can be through the people that represent you in various assemblies, reps or senate, but in Nigeria that has been lacking. And once you are adding something, it shows that we are not being transparent. Okay, the first thing this man did when he became president, in his address, that very money was to remove all subsidy from oil, for consumption. So this was removed. How much are we making since then? How much have we made so far? How much is given to the states and local government? These are questions that are very, very vital at this point in time. So what SELAB is doing, a very solid organization. SELAB will always ask questions. And if you cannot produce answer, they go to court. And so they've given an ultimatum to Wike now and the governors. Tell us how much we have collected from subsidy and how much has been spent. If they can provide answers to that, I have no problem. If they can't, SELAB will go to court. So SELAB is doing the job that state assemblies and national assemblies should be doing. Because it is only true in any legislation, in any democracy, the legislature controls the purse. The purse is controlled by the legislature, while the executive controls the sword. They implement, and they're the one that make sure that policies are implemented and executed. But the legislature comprises of people's representatives. They're the one that controls the purse. The appropriations, one naira can be without the approval of the legislature who represent the people. That is how government runs. But in Nigeria, all these things are shrouded in secrecy, leaving room for suspicion that some people are playing game with us. So Nigerians demand the right, they have the right, and they deserve the right to know how much have been saved through subsidy and how much have been spent by the federal government, state government, and local government.
Because come to think of it, I mean, if it's a company like I rightly mentioned, and the company says, oh, we are stopping XYZ because we need to save money, it's only right that the board of directors and every single individual, if possible, knows how much the company has saved during the period. I mean, this is 2 years plus, and still there seems to be no accountability or account that shows that this amount was saved, this is where it's gone to, this is what we're using it for, and so on. So, Sarah.
And that is even private sector.
Yeah, that's private sector. Yeah.
But shareholders will ask questions.
Of course.
And the staff will ask questions. How the management spending the money? And it's more important in the public sector when you're spending public money.
Exactly.
People need to know what is going on. I think it's something that should be hyped. And the media should also be more involved in making sure that these people that are ruling us are more accountable.
Okay.
And try to spend our money.
Let's look at our last paper for today, this morning, before we take some more conversations on that. Daily Trust, UNN never issued me degree certificate. Minister, I don't know. Drama. Okay, plots to remove reps minority leader thickens. Experts link 194,876 teachers deficit to poor welfare. Senator Barau to distribute 20,000 naira each to 10,000 less privileged persons in Kano.
No, that.
Let's take that.
Something that you can see. It's personal money. I'm giving it that kind of prominence. Daily Trust shows that something is there. Something is there that Nigeria should learn, should read. And I'm very sure that people that are involved in sharing this money will do it in a transparent manner. Say 10,000 people benefit in Kano. That shows that this man is, no matter how small, people are beginning to see the gains of democracy. And there's no way this money will be shared without people that are involved, being transparent. They want to know the amount of people that benefited. The person that is bringing out the money, the speaker of House of Reps, cannot just roll out money without making sure that there are mechanisms to share it and to get to the people that are really in need of it. So that is commendable. It should be commended. And we should also flip the page to the other issue that we have been talking about here. The money the federal government is sharing, how transparent and credible is the process? Because I'm not seeing anybody that is benefiting from it.
I haven't either.
So if people are asking questions, no one anybody, then what are the people? Government should come and tell us what benefited from it. So the deputy speaker should be appreciated for his efforts.
Okay, let's go back to the Daily Trust and let's look at what we also have more. We have more stories on the front page, and let's see another one. This one is one from 751 LGAs lagging behind in fiscal transparency. So you see, another one, 751 LGAs lagging behind in fiscal transparency. We have that story. Committee proposes 13 new emirates in Bauchi. That's another story. A very sad one indeed, which also aligns with the worrying state of insecurity. This one has got to do with gunmen kill 2 wedding guests at FCT. You wonder if the FCT is supposed to be a place where this could happen, but gunmen kill 2 wedding guests at FCT. The political carnival at Nintawe's mother's burial, that's another story. We did hear that the Senate president told him it was a good time for his mother to die. I'll talk about the APC chairman. Let's see another story. 4,788 die of cholera in 5 years. How we lost them within hours. Families speak. Why cases are rising. Experts also are speaking. So we seem to have a loaded conversation from the front page of the Daily Trust. Yes, let's look at this one. Gunmen killed 2 wedding guests at FCT. Last week it was the Arise anchor who had lost her life. This followed another one just yesterday. They said there was insecurity heightened within the FCT. And now this header as well, gunmen. It's like gunmen are running rampage in the FCT.
Sorry, that story we just discussed on the is a senator, the Senate president.
Yes, yes, senator.
Not Speaker of Reps.
Yes,
the Senate president from Kano State, to giving citizens some stipends.
Yes, Senator.
It's becoming alarming in the FCT, in the security. And I don't know, in some climes, by now everything Commissioner of Police will be out there addressing the media, telling the public what he's doing to curb it. But the man is not talking until maybe some TV invites him to their studio for because we give us the lowdown what is going on in Abuja. So and the FCT minister too should be more focused, in what is going on in other his domain than River State. That's no longer the governor. So I've not read the story to find out what happened. But if government are suddenly becoming rampant, becoming rampaging the FCT, a federal capital, then it gives cause to worry. but you tell us what is going on. They've not been talking. And the prominence of the story is, I'm sure, deliberate on the part of Daily Trust to put the issue of insecurity and deficit on the front burner. So I'm sure they are watching and they read the story. They should be more proactive and more active in protecting the citizens in Abuja.
Okay. Let's look at this particular one. Committee, anyway, the political carnival, we've talked about that, but I want us to focus on experts linking 194,876 teachers deficit to poor welfare.
Pardon?
Experts.
Yeah.
They are linking 194,876 teachers deficit to poor welfare.
Which story is that? Which page?
Okay, so that's the one at the top.
Okay.
Just so you know, if you go back to
teachers.
Yes, the National Union of Teachers, they've pegged shortage of teachers at 194,876, and they are seeking for recruitment of teachers. That's National Union of Teachers. However, experts have said that the reason why they lack that teachers, so many teachers, and this is due to the fact that it's due to the poor welfare. Teachers are not being paid properly or well paid.
That's a very good story. Well, yesterday was International Teachers' Day. I went to a place called Iwo, in Osun State, my old school, public high school, for our student association's meeting, general meeting. When the principal was giving his address, I was so despondent to the extent of crying. Can you imagine a whole school? They have one English teacher, a whole school. They have one math teacher, no computer teacher, no Yoruba teacher. They have one English teacher, a whole school. Johnson. It's a pathetic story. It's annoying, and something must be done about it. You see, a country that you don't have teachers, how do you train your children? Even though this thing cannot be said to be what is going on in the private schools. The private schools are more equipped in terms of book, in terms of the library, in terms of people teaching staff. But in public schools, it's far different, and it's pathetic, and it's sad. So something must be done about it. Government should be more involved. And that's what I was saying. The government cannot complain. There's not money to employ more teachers and pay them. They don't. But nobody is asking questions. So this kind of story raises a lot of questions, and all of us should be judged if we're not doing enough. Because if there are no teachers in public schools, don't forget it, there will be private schools. But the only way country can survive, country can develop and grow, is when you have enough teachers, enough schools, equipped schools, and teaching staff in public schools. That is not good enough, and something should be done. The people in charge of education and governance in Nigeria should wake up to their responsibilities. It's not acceptable.
A lot to look into here on the front pages of the newspapers. Let's see.
Talk about the senator.
Yeah,
the
senator.
Minister. It is
so the UNN never issued me degree certificate. Minister says it's a story that everyone is talking about.
Yeah, it's everywhere online.
What's your take?
It's an investigative story.
Premium Times has started carrying out this investigation
story.
And he initially denied that there was no such.
But Premium Times insisted. And they went to check the record. And the man was not given a degree. He did not pass through the school, even though he was a student. He has not come out to tell you that yes, I was never awarded a degree. That's a disgrace. He's serving minister in Nigeria. I don't think the qualification to be a minister is master's degree. Just like Suscat, must be qualified. You must have enough capacity, enough background, enough experience to be that under that portfolio.
What does this say about the screening exercise?
No, very poor, very poor.
Because it seems like at the assembly, everyone is they're just passing the committee, just passing anybody that comes. Because if the screening exercise was done, yes, take a bow. If the screening exercise was done appropriately, they would have identified this. But now, kudos to the media for taking up the job.
The screening proper that we see on the screen on TV. Most of these nominees names would have been given to the DSS and even the police for thorough investigation.
So what does this also say about
Nigeria? It means that
DSS
something is
and
not
police?
somewhere. It's very porous. It's not tidy. It's not tidy. And the best thing for him is to resign. And if he fails to resign, the president should fire him. You can't be lying. You lied on the oath. You lie on that oath. And now that you have accepted, you have agreed that you lied, the best thing for you to do, honorably to do, is to resign.
So let's give him. Let's give him 24 hours, or better still 48 hours. Let's see if he's going to resign. Let's just see. But just in case, for those who just tuned in who don't understand the story, we're looking at the Daily Trust. UNN never issued me degree certificate. The minister. In case you're wondering what the story is, let me give you a background. Okay, his name is Honorable Minister Uche Nnaji. Now, just in case you do not know, he is the Minister of Science and Technology. Science and Technology. And he has admitted that the University of Nigeria, Nsukka, UNN, never issued him a degree certificate. This was after long months of investigation carried out by Premium Times. And this has put a further hold on Nigeria's judiciary, Nigeria's security, because like you mentioned, the police, the DSS will have to ensure that they vet
public institutions.
Yes, public institutions as well. And there you have it on the screen there. The University of Nigeria. I mean, take a look at this. So if this was forged, as it were, because that's what it sounds like and that's what it seems like, it is what it is, we're expecting that the minister under this administration of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, even the NYC, down to the NYC. I remember that we have the Constitution allows us to ask for information. The
FOI bill.
The FOI, yes. Yeah. We have, and that's what the media did. They simply just went ahead to ask for the information and say, okay, fine, we want to find out. And there you have it, forged if care is not taken.
No, the man accepted that he did not without having the degree.
So where did he get it from?
So I don't know. No, apart from being sacked after he has resigned, he should be handed over to the police for prosecution. This is something that is illegal. This is something that is tantamount to committing crime. They committed crime. Apart from being sacked, it should be handed over to the police for proper investigation and prosecution.
What was that young girl's name who had forged that JAM results somewhere? And I've forgotten her name. It's a very popular name if it evades my thoughts now. And we know how the media had banned it. Exactly.
Yes.
This is a minister.
Yeah, it was.
A minister.
I'm sure the president himself, the government will be very embarrassed what they did. This is the name of the man. That's the face.
That is Nigeria's Minister of Science and Technology. Mr. Uche Nnaji, therefore coming out to accept what Premium Times
because you have no choice. You have been shown everything on facts that he do, and I'm sure Premium Times go to the university, go to the university archive, go to the university registry to confirm. So the man was faced with no choice but to agree that yes, he forged the certificate, which is a crime under our law.
The vetting process, the screening committee problem.
That shows that I'm sure by now they're blaming themselves.
I mean, let's take a look at this letter. This letter there from the University of Nigeria, media inquiry from People's Gazette, Geoffrey Uche Nnaji. Your email dated October 24, 2023 on the above subject refers. This is to confirm that Geoffrey Uche Nnaji with registration number was admitted in 1981 to study microbiology biochemistry in the University of Nigeria, Nsukka. Mr. Geoffrey Uche Nnaji graduated from the University of Nigeria in July 1985 with Bachelor of Science in Microbiology Biochemistry, second class lower division. Accept the assurance of the registrar's warmest regards. This is from the registrar in the school. So
confirming that
they should also find this registrar.
Yes. You need to find out if that letter or truly from the university or through some racket in the institution.
Permit me to speak in a Lagos dialect. It's
very interesting.
What?
Sad.
This
a reflection of what
the society is.
Yes.
There's a lot
very sad. This man should be
it's a
taught a
lot.
lesson. He should
It's a
be
lot.
sacked.
You can find this
If he refuses to
story.
resign, should be sacked. Then hand over to the police for proper investigation and prosecution. To prosecute him.
You know, I mean, this admission validates the findings of a painstaking 2 years investigation, 2-year investigation by Premium Times, which revealed that he forged the credentials he submitted to President Bola Ahmed Tinubu and the Nigerian Senate during his ministerial confirmation. This also sheds light to Nigeria's ministerial confirmation processes. I mean, you've mentioned the DSS will do their due diligence, please, but does it look like they did their due diligence? And again, this is like 1-0, a win for the media.
Even if you blame the National Assembly, that should be a partial blame. You know, the blame is how did it get cleared?
Anyway,
without DSS getting to know what really happened.
Big questions to ask.
Big questions.
Let's now move to the Nigerian Economic Summit, where we do hear that it started already. The president is speaking, and possibly that would be all for us here on Breakfast Central as we just go straight to Abuja. I'll be right back. Stay with us.